30 miles off the coast of New Jersey, beneath cold Atlantic waters, lies a war that never ended. A steel coffin, silent, undisturbed. Inside it, 56 men, German sailors, Nazis, trapped exactly where history left them. This is U-869, a submarine never meant to be here. For nearly half a century, the world believed this U-boat died thousands of miles away, near Gibraltar, sunk by Allied forces in the final months of World War II. But history was wrong. Low boom, fade into sonar pings. In 1991, American divers would stumble upon something impossible. A Nazi submarine, lying silently, just off the American coast. Not a wreck from training and exercises, not a museum artifact, but a fully armed German war submarine, lost in combat, and the men inside never came home. The Atlantic Ocean remembers everything. Every convoy shattered by torpedoes, every scream swallowed by waves, every steel hull dragged into darkness. During World War II, German U-boats turned the Atlantic into a killing ground. From 1939 to 1945, Adolf Hitler's submarines hunted relentlessly, starving Britain, sinking merchant ships, and terrorizing coastlines from Europe to America. In 1942, the war came shockingly close to U.S. shores. German submarines cruised the eastern seaboard almost unchallenged. Cities kept their lights on. Ships burned within sight of beaches. Operation Paukenschlag, drumbeat, had begun. America was no longer safe. But by 1944, the tide had turned. Radar, sonar, air patrols, depth charges. The hunters became the hunted. U-boats were dying faster than Germany could build them. And into this collapsing Reich sailed U-869. U-869 was a Type 9C/40 submarine, long range, heavy, designed to operate far from home. She stretched over 76 meters long, packed with torpedoes, diesel fuel, food, and men. Her steel skin was thin. Her survival depended on silence. Inside, conditions were brutal. No showers, no fresh air, no privacy. The smell of diesel, sweat, oil, and fear clung to everything. 56 men lived stacked on top of torpedoes, sleeping where they could, eating when supplies allowed. They were young, most in their late teens or early 20s. They believed the ocean would protect them. They were wrong. U-869 was commanded by Captain Lieutenant Helmut Brunner. Experienced, disciplined, but commanding a submarine in 1944 was a death sentence waiting for a date. By then, Allied anti-submarine warfare had become brutally efficient. Every patrol aircraft was a potential executioner. Every sonar ping, an omen. Still, orders came, and sailors obeyed. In December 1944, U-869 left her base in Kristiansand, Norway. Her destination? Officially, the Mediterranean. Her mission, intercept Allied shipping. Her fate, unknown. After departure, U-869 was never heard from again. No distress call, no radio transmission, no survivors. After the war, Allied analysts reconstructed U-boat losses. Based on circumstantial evidence, U-869 was declared sunk on February 28, 1945, near Gibraltar, destroyed by Allied escort ships. Families were informed. Files were closed. The case was settled, or so everyone believed. Because the ocean had kept a secret, 30 miles off New Jersey. What if the submarine never went to Gibraltar? What if U-869 crossed the Atlantic instead? What if Nazi Germany's last ghost was lying right here? By 1944, the war beneath the waves was turning against Nazi Germany. For years, U-boats had ruled the Atlantic. They hunted in wolf packs. They struck without warning. Merchant ships vanished in fire and oil. But the ocean was learning, and the Allies were adapting. Early in the war, German submarines moved almost freely. Allied convoys were slow. Escorts were few. Air cover ended miles from shore. U-boats attacked at night, on the surface, firing torpedoes like predators in open water. But by 1943, the balance shifted. Radar detected steel hulls in darkness. High-frequency direction finding intercepted radio signals. Long-range patrol aircraft closed the air gap, and new weapons appeared. Depth charges became precise. Hedgehogs exploded beneath hulls. One mistake now meant death. German losses skyrocketed. In May 1943 alone, 41 U-boats were destroyed. Admiral Karl Dönitz, father of the U-boat fleet, was forced to pull his submarines back. The wolf packs were broken, yet the war did not stop. Hitler demanded pressure. Supplies were dwindling. Factories burned under Allied bombs, but submarines still sailed. In 1944, every patrol was a gamble. Crews knew the odds. Most would not return. Morale fell, but discipline held. For young sailors, refusal was impossible. Once the hatches closed, there was no turning back. Inside boats like U-869, time lost meaning. Days blurred into nights. Air grew stale. Carbon dioxide rose. Men collapsed from exhaustion. Food spoiled. Water was rationed. Fresh air meant surfacing, and surfacing meant death. Every sound was amplified. A dropped wrench could betray them. A careless valve could flood the boat. Above all, there was fear. Fear of sonar pings. Fear of propellers overhead. Fear of the sudden, crushing roar of depth charges. By late 1944, the Allies controlled the seas. Convoys moved under constant protection. Escort carriers hunted submarines relentlessly. U-boats were forced deeper, slower, blind, trapped. Even experienced commanders struggled to survive. And for long-range submarines like U-869, missions became increasingly unclear. Some boats were reassigned mid-patrol, others received secret orders, never recorded in surviving logs. Confusion reigned. Germany was collapsing. The Red Army advanced from the east. Allied forces closed in from the west. Fuel shortages crippled operations. Communication lines broke down. Yet Berlin continued issuing commands. Attack, delay, disrupt. Even symbolic strikes mattered. And somewhere in this chaos, U-869 was moving. Post-war records claimed U-869 was sent toward the Mediterranean, but evidence would later suggest something else. Fuel capacity, weather patterns, Allied contact reports, and the simple question, why would a long-range Atlantic submarine be found off New Jersey? Some historians believe U-869 was quietly redirected, not south, but west, toward the American coastline. A final, desperate patrol, a ghost mission from a dying Navy. Though defenses had improved, the U.S. coast was not invincible. Shipping lanes remained active. Tankers carried vital fuel. Troop transports crossed constantly. Even a single submarine could still cause chaos, and German command knew it. If U-869 reached American waters, it would be one of the last U-boats ever to do so, and possibly one of the last to die. By early 1945, U-869 was alone. No wolf pack, no rescue, no margin for error, and somewhere beneath the Atlantic, her fate was being sealed. In the final winter of World War II, the Atlantic was no longer a battlefield. It was a graveyard, and sailing through it alone was U-869. In December 1944, U-869 slipped away from her Norwegian base. There was no ceremony, no farewell band, only freezing wind and gray seas. The crew sealed the hatches. The diesel engines roared, and Germany faded behind them. For most aboard, this would be their last glimpse of land. Unlike earlier patrols, U-869's orders were vague. Surviving German naval archives contained no detailed patrol log, no attack reports, no position updates, only silence. Some documents list her destination as the Mediterranean. Others contradict that claim. Fuel calculations suggest a western route. Weather records align with a North Atlantic crossing, and Allied intelligence would later reveal something chilling. German submarines were still probing the American coast. Even in 1945, if U-869 did cross westward, it was a journey of exhaustion. Weeks submerged, surfacing only at night, listening constantly, avoiding aircraft, avoiding escorts, avoiding death. The Atlantic in winter was merciless. Waves slammed the hull. Ice formed on the deck. Storms forced dangerous dives. Every mile west increased the risk, but also the reward. By early 1945, the U.S. Eastern Seaboard appeared calm. Cities glowed at night. Shipping flowed steadily. But beneath the surface, danger lingered. Radar stations scanned endlessly. Destroyers patrolled shipping lanes. Hunter-killer groups waited for a single mistake. If U-869 was here, she was already marked. No confirmed radio transmission from U-869 was ever received after departure. No mayday, no distress call, no final message. For submariners, this meant only one thing. The end came suddenly, perhaps a sonar contact, perhaps a depth charge pattern, perhaps a fatal internal error, a valve, a battery fire, a torpedo detonation. The sea gives no warnings. Somewhere off the American coast, combat unfolded in total darkness. Explosions echoed through steel corridors. Lights failed. Men were thrown against bulkheads. Water rushed in. The boat descended uncontrollably. At crushed depth, steel screamed. Rivets failed. The hull collapsed. In seconds, everything ended. 56 men. No survivors. After the war, Allied analysts reconstructed thousands of U-boat losses. Without wrecks, assumptions filled the gaps. U-869 was credited to an attack near Gibraltar in February 1945. The report seemed reasonable. Records matched. No contradictions appeared. Families were notified. Grief was finalized. And the Atlantic kept its secret. But decades later, one question would shatter that certainty. Why was a German U-boat lying off New Jersey? Not fragments, not debris, but an intact submarine. Silent, unclaimed, waiting. For nearly 50 years, U-869 remained undisturbed. A war grave beneath American waters, unknown, unrecorded, until a group of civilian divers changed everything. Narrator: nearly half a century passed. World War II faded into textbooks. The Cold War came and went. Yet beneath the Atlantic, the war was still waiting. The waters off New Jersey are deceptively ordinary. Fishing boats, cargo traffic, recreational dive charters. But below the surface lies a vast underwater graveyard. Dozens of wrecks, tankers, freighters, warships, victims of U-boats during America's darkest maritime year, 1942. Divers knew the area well, or so they thought. In 1991, a group of experienced American wreck divers launched a routine expedition. Their target was believed to be a sunken freighter. Coordinates were approximate. Charts were incomplete. The Atlantic offered no guarantees. As the dive boat slowed, sonar revealed something unexpected. A long shape. Too sleek. Too symmetrical. Too deliberate. The divers entered the water. Visibility was poor. Currents were strong. The wreck emerged slowly, like a shadow becoming solid. Then the truth became impossible to ignore. A pressure hull, a conning tower, torpedo tubes. This was not a freighter. This was a submarine, and not an American one. The shape was unmistakable. German design, World War II era. Lying silently, 30 miles off the U.S. coast, the divers froze. This discovery rewrote everything. There were no records of a German submarine lost here, no battles, no official sinkings. Yet here it was. Against every instinct, curiosity won. The divers approached the hull. Damage was visible. A shattered bow, twisted metal, signs of a violent end. One diver found an opening, a torpedo tube, large enough to enter. What lay beyond was darkness. Penetrating a wreck like this was deadly. Silt could blind instantly. Loose cables could trap a diver. One mistake meant death. Inside, time stopped. Control panels were intact. Valves frozen mid-turn. Personal items lay scattered. Boots, tools, dishes. This was no empty wreck. This was a tomb. The divers realized something chilling. The crew was still inside. No escape attempts, no surfaced hatches, and no signs of survival. 56 sailors had died exactly where they served. The submarine had become their coffin. Word spread quietly through the diving community. A German U-boat, unidentified, unclaimed. Each dive revealed more clues. Each dive increased the danger. Some divers barely escaped entanglement. Others ran out of air inside the wreck. The ocean demanded respect and payment. Early speculation linked the wreck to U-550 or U-521, but details did not match. The damage pattern was wrong. The location made no sense. The mystery deepened. This submarine did not belong here. According to history, it should not exist. What the divers had found was not just a wreck, it was a contradiction, a forgotten chapter of the war. And the deeper they went, the closer they came to a truth that would rewrite history. Finding the submarine was only the beginning. Identifying it would change history. The divers knew one thing: this wreck had an identity, and somewhere inside it, proof still existed. Each dive became more deliberate, more dangerous as they documented everything: hull measurements, damage patterns, internal layouts, because every detail mattered. Inside the wreck, they found objects untouched since 1945. Porcelain marked with German naval insignia, engine components stamped with serial numbers, uniform fragments, and then something decisive: a torpedo loading hatch plate stamped clearly. U-869. The mystery was over, and the shock was just beginning. According to official records, U-869 was already dead, sunk near Gibraltar in February 1945. But this wreck lay off New Jersey, thousands of miles away, and both could not be true. Historians rechecked Allied attack reports and discovered the supposed sinking near Gibraltar had been misattributed. The target was a different submarine. U-869 had never gone south. She had gone west. The revelation stunned naval historians. In the final months of the war, a German U-boat had reached American waters undetected, unrecorded, and died there, becoming the last German submarine lost off the U.S. coast, a mission erased by chaos and buried by paperwork. The damage told a story: the bow torn apart, likely struck by depth charges or possibly by a self-detonated torpedo. Some evidence suggests an attack by U.S. Navy escorts, while others believe she was destroyed by her own weapon during a reload. And the truth remains uncertain because the ocean does not give testimony. 56 crewmen remain sealed within the hull. No bodies recovered, no burial at sea. The wreck now a war grave officially recognized by German authorities, with no salvage, no disturbance, only remembrance. Each man had a name, a family, a life beyond the steel walls, all ended in darkness. Even after identification, the wreck continued to claim victims, as several divers lost their lives exploring U-869, entangled, disoriented, out of air. The submarine still killing long after the war ended. Today, U-869 lies exactly where she fell, covered in rust, surrounded by fish, undisturbed, as ships pass overhead and beaches fill with families, life continuing unaware that 30 miles off the American coast, a Nazi submarine remains on eternal patrol, her engines silent, her weapons cold, her mission unfinished inside her steel hull. 56 men still standing their final watch, with no victory, no surrender, only silence. A story once buried under mistakes and assumptions, but remembered by the ocean until it finally gave them back.